Welcome and thank you all for attending Cool Cleveland Editorial Board meeting. Today is September 26, 2013, and we are in the Art Gallery at the historic Old Stone Church right here on Public Square in beautiful downtown Cleveland. Joining us today to discuss issue 80, our Chief Operating Officer Joe Roszak and Marketing Director Sue Allen. And the new iPhone does work.
It does.
By the way, it just started working right there. So thank you both for coming today and meeting with us. We really appreciate it. We realize you're very busy and your schedules are crazy, so thank you so much for accommodating us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We
Pleasure
reserve.
meeting all of you as well, so I can't believe we've been here. I've been here 23 years, and many of you are new faces to me, so thank you.
Right, thank you so much. So we reserve the first 10 of our 30 minutes to hear from you in support of issue 80, and then we'll use the remaining 20 minutes for a Q&A with our editorial board.
Sure.
This session will be videotaped and posted to coolcleveland.com to allow our readers a better chance to understand the issues and candidates as they prepare to vote in the upcoming November 5th general election. We will use this session to help us prepare our editorials and our endorsements. Now, I would like to read the language that will be on the ballot. For issue 80, Metroparks District, it's a proposed tax levy, a renewal, and an increase. It's the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District. A majority affirmative vote is necessary for passage. A renewal of an existing levy of 1.8 mils and an increase of 0.9 mils constitute a tax for the benefit of the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District, known as the Cleveland Metroparks, including the Cleveland Metroparks Zoo, for the purpose of conserving the natural resources and maintaining, repairing, improving, planning, acquiring, developing, protecting, and promoting the use of existing and future lands and facilities, and for any other lawful purpose of the Park District, at a rate not exceeding 2.7 mils for each $1 evaluation, which amounts to 27 cents for each $100 evaluation for 10 years, commencing in 2013, first due in calendar year 2014. I'm Thomas Mulready, publisher of CoolCleveland.com, and I'm joined with our writers and editors who provide regular coverage of civic affairs and politics each week in Cool Cleveland. Mansfield Frazier, Richey Piiparinen, Anastasia, Pantsios, and Larry Durston. So this is going to be a renewal levy and an increase, and the increase is about 50% of the renewal. So it's a pretty good size increase. First of all, people need to understand that. It will add about $5 a month to the tax bill of a house that goes for about $100,000.
It's about $265 for $100,000 per month additional from the previous.
Additional,
Yep.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a total of 5 then.
Approximately.
Add the two together, right?
Yeah.
So the Metroparks is 22,000 acres, 16 different parks, 7 golf courses, 1 marina. Some of these may have changed.
Yeah,
because
we've
you've been
got
growing,
a
right?
lot. Yeah, some of
Some of these
them
numbers are maybe a little old.
Yeah.
100 miles of parkway, 85 miles of all-purpose trails, a police force, 660 full-time and part-time positions, a $92.5 million budget, that may be bigger now as well, a zoo, world-class zoo, and about 16 million annual attendance. You can update us on those figures, but I just want to give people a sense of this is a pretty major operation that you guys are running here. And so one of the things that's happened, and you're not the only ones that have experienced this, but the state has cut their funding to a lot of projects and programs. You've experienced a cut as well in your state funding. And it seems like then they go to the local community and raise their local taxes to help pay for this. So the question is, aren't we already paying state taxes that should support the metro parks, and why are we not pushing back harder, I guess, on the state? How do you respond to this?
I mean, that's a great question, and you're correct. The last 3 years we've lost about $12 million of funding that we would normally have had in order to operate. But I think, under our CEO Brian Zimmerman's leadership, he's very aggressive and very out of the box, and he's come up with a lot of creative ways to get by and still provide all of those assets. You know, we're 23,000 and your numbers were very, very close. You know, we can fine tune them later, but it's an immense system with an immense responsibility to the community, and to still be able to provide those services with the cutting from the state funding, I think is a tremendous accomplishment by our team over the last 3 years without those dollars. Now, there's a lot of creative things that we've done, whether it's holding positions and coming up with new innovative ways to get things done. We're switching over to propane with some of our lawnmowers and things like that to save money, to be able to get by. Now, you know, the state and what happens and what we get from them to push back, you know, I think that's a larger issue above and beyond what the Metroparks can initiate. Obviously, we'd love to get that funding back, but at this point, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, so.
What is the dynamic between the state and the Metroparks? I mean, do you communicate with them? Do you lobby them? I mean, are you able to let them know, hey, this is really hurting us and we don't want to have to go to our local community? What's the dynamic?
The communication is definitely there, especially since the lakefront acquisition. You know, the state and the city were a huge part of it, and a very active part of that transition. It really took the city and their leadership, the state and their leadership, and the Metroparks and our Board of Commissioners to all fall into line with what was needed to get done to make that transition happen. Right. So definitely throughout that, over the last year, communication has been very good. I'm sure they're well aware that $12 million loss affects us. Yeah. So they're aware of it, and what happens in the future, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Any other comments from that?
What about so the state gave the authority over Edgewater Park to the Metroparks? How did that financing?
Like Edgewater, the six main properties: Edgewater, East 55th, Marina, Wildwood, Villa Angela, Euclid Beach. I'm missing one. Edgewater, East 55th. Wildwood, Euclid Beach, Villa Angela.
Forest City,
some yacht clubs, East 55th Street Marina. All of those properties are still technically owned by the city, and they were leased to the state for their management. So basically, still city-owned, but now leased to the Metroparks. And with that came about $14 million of funding that the state gave to the city, and the city in turn gave to the Metroparks to help reinvest into those properties.
Is that money in danger of being cut?
That we already have that money, so we have that money in the bank, and we, you know, right now we're in the planning stages. Some of it we've used because we've had to manage it this first summer on the properties to keep things running, but we're definitely in the planning stages and reinvesting that over the next several years back into the properties.
If, for instance, if Kasich's reelected, could it be cut in the next budget?
No, we literally have it in the bank.
And that's a one-time injection?
It's a one-time injection.
Oh, one time, okay.
Yeah, it's a
But
lump
there
sum.
will be additional ongoing costs to operating these properties,
Yeah,
aren't there?
no, I mean.
Where's that money?
It's definitely going to cost money, and it's definitely, all of our properties, the 23,000 acres, are all going to cost more money over the next 10 years. You know, what we paid for things 9 years ago is completely different than what we pay for it now. And one of the great things I think about our organization is our fiscal responsibility. We have no debt, we've never bonded, we don't have a huge lump of money sitting in a savings account somewhere that we're not spending and saving for a rainy day. All of the money that's come into our organization gets reinvested back into the properties and into the parks. So creatively through the levy support and through our own revenue and through all of our grant funding, we're going to use that money to support the whole system, including the lakefront moving forward.
Let me ask about some things that happened over the history with Vern Hartenberg, who was the retired Metroparks director a few years ago, arrested for public indecency right inside the same Metropark that he oversaw for 22 years. And for a while, the Metroparks were tainted a bit with scandal, nepotism, inefficiency, arrests, resignations. And I wonder about the oversight of the three commissioner structure and the probate judge that I guess he just assigns those three. He has the power to assign the three commissioners, and they oversee the Metroparks. Do you feel that this oversight is adequate? I mean, with something like this going on, and I know that Vern Hartenberg did a lot in his 22 years. I don't want to take away anything, because the Metroparks grew tremendously and had a lot of movement forward in that time. And by all accounts, he was a great administrator. But this kind of scandal does shake the confidence of voters in a public institution. And I just wonder why and I wonder if it's this 3-commissioner structure that doesn't seem real accountable, because you've got a probate judge who picks these 3, and then they get to pick the executive director and on down the line. There's really no accountability to the voters, for example.
I mean, one thing I'll say is our structure isn't unique when it comes to park districts across the country. I sit on the NACPRO board on a national level, and one of the things when I go to national conferences and we talk in our circles, Cleveland is highly, highly respected as far as an organization and a park and rec organization across the country. So people on the outside seeing how things are run and how much we do get done here in Cleveland, we're very envious to other park directors. When I look at the staff, I don't know the exact percentage, but a lot of folks come from other park systems and other parts of the country just to work for Cleveland Metroparks because of the things that we can get done with the structure that's been in place for 96 years. And I think as you look at the 23,000 acres, over the last 96 years, I think as you drive through the parks, experience and go to our programming, everything is done at a very high level. We have lots of folks, most people have master's degrees. We have a lot of people with PhDs on our group that are getting a lot of high quality things done. So I think it's worked for 96 years, and I think it'll continue to work. The commissioners and the probate judge, that's a discussion for them to have ongoing. But what I do know is it has worked. It's been noticed on a national level. And I think the community, everyone I've spoken with out in these groups, especially with the lakefront transition, we really, with Land Studios, spent a lot of time talking to these community groups. They love what we're doing out there. So I think that the majority of the community really appreciates what we're doing, and I think that the structure that we've had is appropriate and it's getting done.
Right.
Yeah, what would you say are the challenges ahead for the Metroparks over the next, let's say, 4 or 5 years or immediate future? And maybe you can couple that with what your vision is of what you'll be doing with the Metroparks.
Sure. I mean, I think vision-wise and our system, we know that over the next 10 years, our next levy cycle, we need to invest money in infrastructure, roads, our paths. The majority of our users just love walking in the parks and using the APT to ride their bike through it. So we know that there's areas that are failing. In the next coming weeks, all of Euclid Creek Reservation, we have funding set aside, is going to get repaved. But that's just the beginning of a lot of different infrastructural needs that we're going to have over the next 10 years. So we know that we're going to have to reinvest in that. Connections, community connections are very important. There are a lot of different community connections that we're really focusing on to get people to different areas of the park that currently they don't have access. We just met with the library last week, and a small little path from the back of the library into Villa Angela Park so people can walk and move seamlessly through the park to the library. It's an idea that was brought up last week. My engineer already gave me 3 iterations of what that path could look like. A bridge, and I'm speaking of lakefront properties, but this is all over. There's community connections that really can be refined to let people flow freely throughout the parks. So that'll be a big focus. There's always some new opportunities that come up. And I think what we're really focusing on, and under Brian Zimmerman's leadership, is to create partnerships and be a voice that can bring people together to get things done. Another quick example, from Aquatics, we've taken over a bunch of lakefront property in the city of Cleveland, getting inner city youth proper swimming instruction, proper water safety lessons is an issue nationwide. So how can the Metroparks now owning these properties work with the greater YMCA, the Cleveland Rec Division, to help engage and promote and make sure that everybody has access to proper swimming instruction on the lakefront? We might not necessarily be the ones teaching it, but we may facilitate the discussion. We may help provide transportation. I'm not sure where it'll go, but those types of things are important to us moving forward. Another big focus is working with the city of Cleveland specifically. If you look at our system, it surrounds now almost completely the city of Cleveland. A lot of Euclid Creek and Garfield and Brookside, and we do have our city parks, but engaging them more. We have a very, very strong component of inner city community engagement with our Eco Explorers, our Nature Tracks program, our Garfield Park Nature Center that reaches out to our Youth Outdoors program, seeing inner city kids see a horse for the first time, introducing them to the relate for the very first time and they live 10 blocks away. Those are the type of things that we really want to help facilitate with all of our partners. We know we can't do it alone, but we do know that we can be a voice, we can be the glue that brings all of these organizations together to help keep moving things forward. We don't necessarily need the credit, but we want to be a part of all of these community-wide things. I would think, you know, previous administration was somewhat of a sleepy organization. They did what they did very well. They really weren't out in front in the community. I think under Brian's leadership, he has completely changed the culture internally and within the community. We're out, we're sitting on more boards, we're being engaged with the community and seeing how can we help, how can we work together to get some of these great things done.
Have you ever thought of urban farming on your lands?
Mansfield, we're thinking of the same thing. Garfield Park Nature Center, a very high-quality farm and garden days has always been very popular. They're a big special event every year. And right now, we're in discussions with how can we use that nature center in a different way, specifically focusing on urban gardening and farming, how to use a windowsill to grow your own fresh vegetables, how to use a small plot in your backyard to grow sustainable fruits and vegetables to eat that are very low cost and in your backyard, and teaching the community around there how to do that. We're thinking of doing
Well,
that.
I was thinking more in terms of using your land,
Oh,
not showing them how to go back to their own land. Have you ever thought of using Metroparks
Sure.
land for open farming, where there's no fence, you plant it,
Sure.
you take care of it, people want a tomato, they go pick it, it's not stealing, we
Right.
just grew it, you can have it. Have you thought of doing any of that?
Not specifically under that format where people come in and take what they would like. We do have some urban gardening plots in Garfield Park on the upper side that have just been put in over the last 2 years. We're exploring how to use our land and in partnership even with the national park. How do we grow for specifically the zoo? How do we grow food for the elephants on our own property? Why do we go and use all the, we have property to do it. So from elephants to people, same type of philosophy, same type of idea. I think we're more than willing to explore that.
You'd mentioned that you're now interacting more with inner city youth. Do you have any figures on diversity in terms of your staff?
Not off the top of my head. I know, HR, I won't speak for our HR person, but it is a huge focus. We're actually in the process of hiring it's kind of got an interesting name, but a talent coordinator, recruitment specialist. And that's going to be one of their main focuses, is how do we reach out. We have a very strong management trainee program that we take lower level employees and bring them into to teach them how to be managers and engage more within the organization. We do a lot of very unique things to give people an opportunity to grow. Succession planning from moving up in the organization, making sure there's a career ladder, and reaching out especially to the universities, the local high schools. A lot of folks will come and internship with us, so we'll work with city work programs, and we'll try to latch on to those youth to stay within our organization. I don't have the specific number.
Who could I talk to in your organization to get some numbers on diversity?
We can get those numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get them for you, absolutely.
Thank you.
No problem.
What about, say, vacant land utilization, as far as scaling up parklets, inner city parks? Have you had discussions on kind of like an emerald necklace in the urban core?
Yeah, I mean, key connective piece, I'll use this as an urban core, but acacia. That was never on our plan, but it came up. It was an opportunity. It was sitting in the middle of a very densely populated area with very little green space. So we felt that's part of our job, is to take that land and steward it. And obviously we had help from the Conservancy to make that transition happen. But there's all kinds of those opportunities. We're working with a group in East Cleveland now on how can we help them with their city parks. Taking them over and managing them and making a mini necklace within the city. I don't think we're specifically talking about, but as opportunities arise, one of the things we're going to be very cautious with over the next 10 years is overextending ourselves. If we're getting into new properties moving forward, we need to make sure that they align with our mission, they align with key connective pieces within our system, and it makes sense. We're not driving 20 miles to take care of a piece of land that doesn't connect with the rest of it. So connectivity will always drive those decisions.
Have you talked or thought about partnerships with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy or the Cuyahoga County Land Bank as far as trying to scale up?
Sure. No, we meet with them quite often, actually, and as vacant properties become available, what are they turned into? Will they connect when the towpath comes through? What's near that could become a kind of a little bubble park off of it? Those conversations are definitely ongoing.
Talk about the lakefront. It's a huge move for Metroparks. It's probably even a bigger move for the community, finally, to have real focus and management there. Are we finally going to take and leverage this asset? I mean, what is the real plan here? I appreciate you saying you want to be conservative in terms of not taking on too much. But it seems that we just haven't done enough to open up the lakefront to make it accessible to people. It's still so privately held.
Right.
And it's one thing to take over what existed as a state park or marina. It's another thing to actively seek out and make that connection, whether it be boardwalks or beaches or where they can exist. We know we have a lot of cliffs around here. What's the Metroparks sort of agenda, if you will, or hidden agenda?
Sure.
I'm just asking for your vision.
No.
You know, because I know
I'll
Brian
give
is.
Joe a break here for 2 minutes. I'm just going to set the stage for what Joe can talk about in terms of the future for the lakefront. And
Sure.
I think it's important for folks to know that before this acquisition was made in June, the transfer actually took place. Cleveland Metroparks was in discussions with the city and the state long before the June 6th signing. And we didn't just approach it with, our ideas, that this is what we envision for the lakefront, and this is what we think it should be. So we engaged Land Studio as a partner who took on some stakeholder meetings, and we met for probably 2 or 3 months prior to June to really talk to folks in those areas to find out what was important to them. And the 2 things that really came out of those discussions were cleanliness and safety. So, we talk about, boardwalks and volleyball courts and restaurants and, decks overlooking whatever. But I think, our primary focus going into that acquisition was really listening to those residents, and the cleanliness and the safety and security is what resonated. So when we approached that, we knew we were going in with, our ranger department, with our park operations folks, full bore to make sure that those parks were safe and clean. Because if they're not safe and clean, it doesn't matter if you have rush, if you have concerts, if you have whatever going on there, people are not going to come. So changing that image and that perception, and really it was reality. It was perception based on reality of the way the parks had been operated for a long time, was a focus. So with that, I'll turn it over to Joe, where we go from here. But
Yeah,
I think it's important that you understand that we did not just go in there and say, it'd be great if we had something there, that we really listened for months to what folks were saying so that we could provide what they were asking for, and also engage those people in helping us operate the parks more effectively as well. That we can't do it alone, that we need homeowners, and we need business folks, and we need the CDCs to really help us partner with effective management of this new property.
Right, yeah, clean and safe, that was the first step, but we obviously need to get into the meat of it, Edgewater specifically, that should be a regional draw. Some of the other parks, the way they're located, maybe not so much, but we can do some nice things with them. But and Sue hit it on the head, it's not going to be what we do. Some of those boardwalks, some of the sidewalks, some of the connection pieces are going to involve the city, the county, the port, all of these other partners, which we know need to come along with us. And we sat around the table at Land Studios with all of those folks from the city, the county, the port, everybody, and made it very clear, this is a team solution. This isn't a Metroparks solving the world's problems down at the lakefront. We're going to do what we do very well and take care of those parks and maintain them and put money back into the infrastructure and make them an appetizing place to come. And where we can partner to make those key connections, I think it's very important. The Shoreway now, the funding finally coming through for that, that will help immensely. We just had 2 underpasses open this past year to bring people into the lakefront. We're right now getting into some conceptual talk and design on what can be done with all of the properties, and a huge part of it is connectivity. I'll give an East Side example. Wildwood Marina, a very cool, neat little park, a hidden gem that a lot of people don't visit. The major parking's in Wildwood, but the beach is over in Villa Angela. Euclid Beach has connected. There's no easy way if you're a mother to take your children over and down to the beach. You have to walk around and get to this next bridge. How do we just jump Euclid Creek and get people right to where they want to be forget the sunblock, now you only have to walk 30 feet instead of a quarter mile back to your vehicle. So we're looking at all of those different pieces and what makes sense, and at the end of the day, you know, how much money we have and how much some of these things cost are going to drive those decisions. But also, there's a lot of infrastructure needs that the public isn't necessarily going to see. The shiny new boardwalk or the shiny new pavilion, everything from lift stations to the break walls to the jetties down at Perkins Beach are in extreme disrepair. So some of those things are going to have to be taken care of, and we're going to need to do it to ensure the longevity of the properties. So we're going to get in there and do some of those things, and we are going to look at conceptually what can be done to draw people here, and where are those key connection pieces that the county, the port, the city can work with us on, whether the funding mechanism aside, how do we work together to get it done?
We have about 5 minutes, so I don't know if there's anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to come back and touch on or reiterate, or if there's anything that the panel has. I'm just giving a little 5-minute warning here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just would like to hit on a couple of the key points, and you know, like I said, we're an organization with no debt, 17 years of clean audits. We haven't had any issues with our money. We don't save it, we reinvest it back into the community. And I think the community appreciates this huge asset that the Cleveland Metroparks are. I had some friends come visit from out of town, and they wanted to kind of plan the trip, and it was fun for them to see what they can do in Cleveland. We'll go around and do some fun things. And 3 of the sites that they use and printed out the top 10, 50% of the things in those top 10 or top 15 were Cleveland Metroparks activities, whether it was a zoo or different reservations or fun things to see. So that's kind of a telltale sign to me that the community appreciates it and wants to promote the Metroparks as a gem for the city of Cleveland, which obviously I think that it is. And I think it's our job, the Metroparks, the Park District, to protect this great asset for the community. And 62% of our funding comes from this levy. The rest of it comes from fees at the zoo and golf course. But 62%, you know, you look at your household income or your organization's income, take away 62% of the funding, and you can imagine what could possibly happen if that's gone. So it's really important to us to make sure that this passes and that we can get the financial stability over the next 10 years to keep providing those same services and do all of these new things that we're talking about.
Talk about the mountain biking trails that have come around. I know it's taken a while. For years, they were sort of stonewalling for whatever reason. You said the culture was really quite different than we've seen now under Brian Zimmerman, and they're starting to come online now. It's pretty exciting. I just wonder how willing you are to talk about the vision, where that's going, how far you expect that to go.
I think the Royal View we've opened, we're now working on another one in Bedford specifically, and I think again, to be a leader in the region, to be the authority in the region and how these things get done. One of the greatest things about our trail building is we now have a dedicated trails crew with some very, very good folks on that team, and they build trails in a very sustainable way. We're not taking bulldozers into the woods, we're doing everything by hand, ropes and pulleys, building them in a way where the water won't erode them, they'll last for years and years to come. So I always say the best thing about our trails is not that they exist, is that how we build them, the story about how we build them. But a key component to the mountain bike system is, for example, Cleveland Valley National Park, they're talking about mountain bike. How do we connect those now so that we can be part of a regional system? So it's not just the Metroparks Trail, the National Parks Trail, this area's trail. How do we make that all work as a regional system so that folks will come here from all over the country to mountain bike in Northeast Ohio? Whether it's in Cleveland Metroparks, in Cleveland Valley, hopefully they don't know. They're just coming here to look at cool trails. So the next stage, I think, is making those connections so that the trail just grows by just making some small connections on our end.
Great. Anything else? Good.
I think one important thing
Yes.
is I did leave some packets with you as well. In those packets is the executive summary of our Cleveland Metroparks 2020 plan, which also includes an executive summary for the zoo strategic plan moving forward. And that is also available online for any of your readers to look at, and outlines many of the things that we're looking at in the next 20 years, particularly as we approach our 100-year anniversary, which is in 2017. So
Right.
we've been around for a long time.
Yes, congratulations on that, and thank you so much again, Joe and Sue, for coming down and spending time with us.
Absolutely.
I know you have tremendously busy schedules and you're racing around, and we so appreciate you making time for us in your schedule today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.